The sun was setting behind the city skyline as Mia sat on a weathered bench in a bustling square. The glow of orange and pink painted the sky, but to her it felt more like the closing curtain on a long, difficult play. She glanced down at her wrist, her favorite watch, a gift from her grandmother. It wasn't just a watch, it was a memory, a reminder of better times, but today it felt like the heaviest thing she owned. For the past few weeks, her life had spiraled out of control. The bills had piled up like a fortress around her, and every corner of her small apartment echoed with reminders of a life she once loved. She wanted to leave this city to escape the weight of her troubles, but she didn't have the money to go anywhere. That's when the idea struck her: sell the watch. She tapped the cool metal, thinking about how much it meant to her, how hard it would be to let go. But sometimes to move forward, you have to release what holds you back. Mia stood up, her heart racing. She made her way to the small pawn shop tucked away between a cafe and a bookstore. As she entered, a tiny bell jingled, announcing her arrival. Inside, the smell of old wood and dust wrapped around her like a blanket. Rows of trinkets, antiques, and forgotten treasures filled every corner. An elderly man behind the counter looked up, his eyes narrowing as he noticed her determined expression. He asked, a hint of curiosity in his voice. Swallowing hard, Mia laid her watch on the worn counter. "I'd like to sell this," she said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. His gaze shifted to the watch, examining it closely. "This is a fine piece." "Yes," Mia replied, biting her lip, but he raised an eyebrow and nodded slowly. "I can give you $50. Her heart sank. $50 felt like too little for something so precious, but she couldn't think of anything else. "Okay," she said, trying to mask her disappointment. After completing the transaction, she stepped back outside into the busy street, feeling lighter but also emptier. With her thoughts racing, she walked toward the bus station, where she hoped to find freedom. Her mind drifted to places she could go: the ocean, the mountains, somewhere far from the chaos of her life. As she approached the bus station, her heart pounded. The tickets were not cheap, but she wasn't going to allow fear to grip her now. She stepped up to the counter, her eyes scanning the destinations. "One ticket to anywhere," she said, her voice firmer than she felt. The ticket agent raised an eyebrow. "I need to know where you're going to sell you a ticket," he replied, looking at her with a mixture of confusion and concern. Mia glanced behind her. People were rushing by, their lives moving forward while she felt stuck. "Just somewhere I can start over," she insisted, but her voice faltered under the weight of her reality. Suddenly, from the corner of her eye, she noticed a tall figure moving towards her. It was Alex, a guy she had known from the neighborhood. He often stopped by her cafe for coffee. He looked concerned as he approached, his brow furrowed. "Mia," he asked, glancing at the ticket counter and then back at her. "I'm trying to leave town," she said, fighting to keep her voice steady. He stared at her, the corners of his mouth turning downward. "Do you have a plan?" "No plan," she admitted. "Just—" Alex's expression softened. A flicker of understanding passed through his eyes. "Mia, you don't have to go. Talk to me." For a moment, it felt like the weight of the world lifted. She opened her mouth but had no idea where to begin. The truth was tangled in her chest, catching in her throat, but as she looked into his concerned eyes, the walls started to crumble. "I don't know if I can do this anymore," she whispered. "Every day feels heavier." He nodded slowly, taking a step closer as if he wanted to close the distance between them. "But running away, that's not the solution. You're strong, Mia." She looked away, feeling tears prick at her eyes. "Then let me help you," he urged, his voice steady. "What if I paid the fare?" The suggestion hung in the air between them. She wanted to refuse. Accepting help made her feel weak, vulnerable. But in that moment, something shifted within her. Maybe accepting support didn't mean giving up. Maybe it was a step toward healing. She asked, her voice filled with a mix of gratitude and disbelief. "Because I care," he replied simply. "You're worth it. Besides, you've got a lot of potential." There was an honesty in his gaze that wrapped around her like a warm embrace. Slowly, she nodded, feeling both hope and fear. "Okay," she said quietly. He smiled softly, relief washing over his face. Together, they approached the ticket counter. As Alex explained the situation, Mia felt a part of her healing. Strangely, it was in this act of allowing someone and allowing him to help her that she began to feel lighter. Maybe she didn't need to carry everything by herself. With the ticket in hand, they exited the station together. The streets were bustling with life, people laughing, couples holding hands, and children running. But Mia didn't feel overwhelmed anymore. Instead, there was a sense of promise in the air. Alex asked as they wandered down the street. "Maybe the coast," she replied. "Perfect choice," he said, grinning. "The ocean has a way of healing." As they walked together, the weight on Mia's heart started to lift. She realized that leaving wasn't just about fleeing her problems, it was about moving towards something better. Day turned to night, lights flickering on around them. They stopped in front of a small diner, neon lights casting a warm glow. Alex asked. Mia smiled, feeling a flicker of joy. Over fries and milkshakes, they talked and laughed like old friends. They shared stories of dreams and fears, and with every bite, Mia felt more and more alive. It was as if the burden she had carried for so long was finally lifting, piece by piece. Hours passed, and as they stepped outside, the cool night air surrounded them. The city felt different now, full of possibilities instead of worries. "Thanks for tonight," Mia said, her heart full. Alex looked at her, the night reflecting in his eyes. "We're all in this together, you know." As they said their goodbyes, something clicked inside. This wasn't just about leaving, it was about finding a new path. It was about building herself back up, not just running away. She pulled out her phone and quickly texted him, "Thank you for listening." When she finally made it to the bus station the next morning, she felt a flutter of excitement in her stomach. Was she scared? Absolutely. But there was also a spark of hope that had been missing for so long. As she stepped onto the bus, her heart raced. She was leaving this place, but she wasn't just running away. She was embracing change, powered by a newfound strength, buoyed by unexpected kindness. The bus pulled away, and the city shrank in her rearview mirror. It wasn't just her watch that had been a weight, it was everything that had held her back. She was free now, unburdened and hopeful. With every mile that passed, she felt a little more like herself again, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel alone. As the landscape opened up before her, Mia realized that she wasn't just leaving a town. She was beginning to write her own story, one where she could embrace possibilities, heal from her past, and maybe, just maybe, find a new version of herself along the way. Mia stood on the corner of 3rd and Main, heart pounding like a drum. The worn-out watch on her wrist seemed to weigh 10 pounds, each tick echoing her mounting desperation. She stared at her reflection in the window of a nearby store, a young woman caught between dreams and reality. Just days ago, she had thought she could turn things around. Now that optimistic glow was fading fast, much like the sunlight dipping below the horizon. She had a plan, or at least she thought she did. The watch, a beautiful piece passed down from her grandmother, wasn't just a device for telling time. It was a symbol of a better life, a life full of laughter and love. But with bills piling up and hope dwindling, she glanced at it now as a suspect, something that could betray her and set her free. With a deep breath, Mia walked down a narrow alleyway, her shoes clicking against the pavement as she headed toward Charlie's pawn. Charlie had a reputation for being a tough but fair man. If anyone could give her a decent price, it was him. She pushed open the creaking door and the tiny bell jingled overhead, a familiar greeting that felt foreign today. "Hey there, Mia." Charlie looked up from behind the counter, his eyes narrowing slightly. She hesitated, feeling the familiar weight pressed down on her shoulders. "I want to sell my watch," she said, unable to keep the tremor from her voice. Charlie raised an eyebrow, gesturing for her to lay it down. She placed the watch on the counter, its face glinting under the harsh fluorescent lights. It seemed to sparkle, mocking her desperation. "Good piece," Charlie muttered. He picked it up and examined it closely, turning it over in his hands. Mia felt a wave of disappointment crash over her. $75, it was a pitiful amount for something so significant. "I need more than that," she pleaded. Charlie sighed, placing the watch back on the counter. "Mia, I get it, but times are tough for everyone." For a moment, she felt her dream of leaving evaporate like mist in the sunlight. I need to get out of this town," she said, her voice almost cracking. He looked at her with a mix of sympathy and understanding. "I wish I could help you more," he said softly. Nodding, Mia felt a lump forming in her throat. She turned to leave, the heaviness of her decision landing like a brick in her chest. It was time to face the truth. Selling her watch felt like a betrayal, but what was the alternative? As she stepped back outside, the world felt cold and unwelcoming. The sky was a bruised shade of gray, rain threatening to fall at any moment. She started walking, moving mechanically down the street, thoughts racing. But suddenly a voice called out to her. "Mia," it was Alex, a guy from the local coffee shop where she worked part-time. He was tall, with messy brown hair and an easy smile. Most days, he filled his cup with coffee and peppered her with playful banter. Right now, he looked concerned. He asked, catching up to her. "I'm fine," she replied, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. He crossed his arms, a move that told her he wasn't buying it. "You came from Charlie's, didn't you?" Mia didn't say a word. She knew he could read her like an open book. Without waiting for her to reply, he looked down at her wrist and noticed the missing watch. He demanded, I tried to sell it," she stammered. "Sell it? I'm trying to leave town," she admitted, tears pricking her eyes. Alex looked stunned. "You can't just run away, Mia." She took a deep breath, feeling the rush of emotions pressing against her chest. "My bills, they're piling up. Life feels like it's falling apart." The pain in Alex's eyes softened, and he stepped closer, his voice gentle. "Mia, you really shouldn't have to go through this alone. You've got friends here." "I just can't face it anymore," she said, her voice trembling. "Mia, listen," he interrupted, his tone earnest. "Running away won't solve your problems." She looked at him, the warmth in his eyes igniting something deep inside her. "Just trust me," he said quietly, determination shining through. "I'll help you. Mia, we can make a plan." Her heart twisted. Could she trust him? It felt so vulnerable, but something about his sincerity seemed genuine. She asked, grappling with the weight of his offer. "I'm sure," he said, meeting her gaze with unflinching honesty. "If you need to leave, then we'll figure out a way to go." She felt a wave of relief wash over her. "Okay," she agreed, her voice barely more than a whisper. They made their way back to the bus station, where the air buzzed with the noise of arriving and departing travelers. Mia's heart raced with anticipation and a tinge of anxiety. What if this didn't work out? "Let's get you a ticket," Alex said, staying close as they approached the counter. The ticket agent, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes, looked up as they stepped forward. "I'd like one ticket, please," Mia declared, feeling a strange mix of excitement and fear. The agent asked, her pencil poised above her notepad. "Anywhere, just away," Mia replied, remembering the weight of her past. The agent asked, an eyebrow raised. With a nod from Alex, Mia felt encouraged. "Yes," she said firmly. As she paid, Alex shifted slightly, glancing at her with renewed determination. "No going back now," he said, offering a reassuring smile. With the ticket in hand, Mia felt a flicker of hope. For the first time in weeks, she could breathe. They stepped outside, and Alex gestured toward a diner across the street. She repeated the word, feeling foreign yet exciting. "Yeah, you're leaving this town behind." Inside the diner, they slid into a booth with neon lights pulsating in soft blues and reds. She scanned the menu, her heart lightening. For the first time in this dim space of worry and despair, there was laughter. They ordered towering burger plates and milkshakes, giddy like kids again. In between bites, they shared their dreams and fears. Mia spoke about the ocean and how deep down she had always wanted to feel the salt on her skin. Alex shared his aspirations of traveling the world, even showing her a few random travel blogs on his phone, illuminating places she had never thought she would see. In that moment, she realized how trapped she had felt, how consumed by fear she had let herself become. "I was so scared," she admitted, looking directly at Alex. He leaned back, eyebrows raised, and said, "But here you are. You're already strong. You took a leap to come here and talk to me. A lot of people wouldn't even do that." Mia felt a rush of warmth, grateful for his kind words. They were filled with truth, and in that moment she knew he didn't just see her desperation. He saw her potential. When their meal was done, they left the diner hand in hand, wandering through the lightly drizzling rain. The world outside sparkled like a new canvas, as if all the colors had reawakened. Alex asked, his eyes shining. "Let's just walk," Mia suggested. They strolled through the streets, exchanging stories and dreams, a connection forming in the spaces between laughter and chatter. As night fell, the city lights twinkled around them, offering a skyline filled with promise. "Mia," Alex said as they paused on a street corner, "this doesn't have to be a goodbye. You're welcome to stay, you know. Help isn't just about money or tickets." A surge of gratitude washed over her. "Thank you, Alex." "For everything," she said, feeling the enormity of their connection. "Neither did I," he replied, smiling brightly. As they stood there, the world continued to move around them, but in that moment, it felt like there was only them, a boy offering hope to a girl who had almost given up. The rain picked up, so they ducked into a nearby cafe, giggling as they tried to avoid getting too wet. The warmth enveloped them, and as they settled into a cozy corner with steaming mugs of coffee, they talked late into the night. Mia learned that vulnerability didn't have to be terrifying. She found strength in the simplest words and most genuine smiles. Alex brought laughter into her world when she thought she had forgotten how. When the night finally drew to a close, Mia and Alex stepped back out into the city, the sidewalks glistening under the street lamps. The air felt electric, charged with possibilities. Mia clenched her ticket tightly, the promise of a new adventure nestled against her heart. With one final glance at the city, she realized this wasn't just about leaving her past behind. It was about moving toward a new life, filled with people who cared, who could walk beside her as she discovered who she could become. As she took Alex's hand, they began walking toward the bus station. Together, they stepped into the unknown, not just embarking on a journey leaving town, but embarking on the beginning of something beautiful. A friendship forged through understanding, kindness, and hope. And as the night embraced them both, Mia felt the burden lifting, replaced by lightness and unphoned dreams, the kind she was ready to chase. Mia stood on the bustling sidewalk, her heart racing as she clutched her grandmother's watch. It glimmered in the afternoon sun, but its shine felt like a cruel reminder of all she had lost. Just days before, she was filled with hope for a fresh start. Now the weight of the world pressed down on her shoulders. Today she had made a decision. She would sell the watch. Stepping into Charlie's pawn shop, Mia could feel her heart thumping in her chest. The door creaked open and a little bell jingled, announcing her entrance. The smell of old wood and dust hit her like a wave as she approached the counter. Charlie, the shop owner, was an older man with a grizzled face and wise, tired eyes. He was known for being a tough negotiator, but today Mia didn't care. She just needed to escape. Charlie asked, his voice deep and gravelly. "I need to sell my watch," she said, laying it on the counter. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Charlie examined it with a critical eye, turning it over in his hands. Nice piece, but not exactly a hot seller these days. $75. It wasn't nearly enough, especially for something that held so many memories, but she didn't have time to grapple with the emotional weight. She needed the money for a bus ticket out of this town, a town that felt like a cage. "I can't leave without more," she urged, her voice breaking slightly. He paused, looking at her with a mixture of sympathy and resignation. "Kid, life's tough. You're not the only one trying to escape. 75 is all I can do." Mia felt a lump in her throat, but with the bills piling up and her dreams slipping through her fingers, she nodded. As she walked out of the pawn shop, the cool air hit her face, a stark contrast to the heaviness in her chest. The sun had started to set, casting long shadows across the pavement. With the few bills crumpled in her pocket and a ticket to freedom in her mind, she headed towards the bus station. Her eyes scanned the street signs until she finally spotted the small building that housed the bus depot. It was a worn structure, fading paint on the walls, but it felt like her last hope. Each step echoed the uncertainty in her heart as she marched forward, ready to run away from everything that had tied her down. Inside the bus station, people bustled about, their lives continuing without her. She approached the agent behind the counter, her heart thundering. "I need a ticket, please," she said, trying to sound confident. The agent asked, pen poised above a notepad. "Anywhere," Mia replied. The agent raised an eyebrow as if sensing the gravity of her situation. "No," she admitted, her voice trailing off. But as the agent calculated the fare, Mia's heart sank. She quickly fished out her crumpled bills, her hopes resting on a razor's edge. The agent looked at her, then back at the screen. $125. Mia felt her stomach drop. She had just given Charlie the watch, trading memories for survival, and now she was still stuck. "I don't have that much," she whispered, her dreams swirling further out of reach. Just then, she heard a voice. Turning around, she found herself face to face with Alex, a guy from the cafe where she worked part-time. Tall, with friendly eyes and a smile that made her heart flutter, he often brightened her long shifts, but today his gaze was filled with concern. "Hey," he asked, his expression a mix of confusion and worry. "I am trying to get away," Mia stammered. Alex's eyes widened as he pieced it together, glancing at the ticket agent. "A lot," she said, struggling to keep the tears at bay. The gravity of her situation consumed her. She felt vulnerable, exposed, and shaky. Without hesitation, Alex pulled out his wallet. He asked. "It's 125, Mia whispered, almost embarrassed. He cut her off. "You can pay me back later." Before she could protest, he handed the agent enough cash to cover the fare. The agent took it without question, printing out the ticket and handing it to Mia. "You're all set," she said, not fully grasping the weight of the moment. Mia blinked, suddenly overwhelmed. "Alex, I can't accept this. What's too much is you feeling like you have to run away," he said, his voice steady. "You deserve a chance to breathe, to step away from all this chaos." She felt a surge of gratitude, but also fear. Accepting help felt like admitting defeat. But as she looked at Alex, something inside began to shift. Maybe asking for help didn't make her weak, it made her brave. "Okay," she finally said, taking the ticket in shaking hands. Together they stepped out into the evening air, the sky painted with colors of hope as the sun dipped below the horizon. Alex walked with her to the bus, their feet moving in sync. With each step, the tension in Mia's chest began to loosen. "I never expected this day to end like this," she said quietly, glancing sideways at him. "Neither did I," he admitted, his tone teasing. They arrived at the bus, and before stepping aboard, Alex turned to her. "Just remember, it's okay to lean on others." Mia nodded, feeling warmth spread through her heart. She climbed up the bus steps, clutching the ticket and his words, already feeling lighter. As the engine roared to life, she looked back at Alex, who waved goodbye, his smile still intact, a beacon of sincerity to carry her forward. The bus pulled away, and Mia watched the city she had once known fade into the distance. The anxiety that had gripped her for so long began to dissipate, replaced by an overwhelming sense of freedom. Each mile took her farther from her past and closer to something unknown. As the night deepened, the lights from the passing towns flickered through the window, creating a dreamlike glow. She took a deep breath, letting the rhythm of the bus lull her toward new possibilities. This was her moment, a chance to rise above the sadness. Inside her heart, she felt gratitude for Alex, a person she hardly knew but who had shown her kindness when she needed it most. It was an unsettling yet beautiful reminder that sometimes help comes from unexpected places. With her eyes growing heavy, Mia surrendered to sleep, dreaming of oceans and new beginnings. Each wave crashing against the shore mirrored her hope's renewal, the rhythm of life pulsating through her veins. She woke up later to the bus slowing down, the lights of a new town illuminating her surroundings. The driver announced a short stop. Mia felt a knot of excitement in her stomach as she stepped off to stretch her legs. As she walked outside, the air was fresh and cool, filled with the sense of dawn. She looked around, marveling at her new surroundings. It wasn't just the scenery that excited her, it was the unknown, what lay ahead. After a quick stretch, she returned to the bus, her mind buzzing with thoughts. Each place they passed felt like a doorway to a new life, a new story waiting to unfold. This was not just an escape, it was an entry into a new chapter filled with hope. Back on the bus, she sat quietly, reflecting on how a single act of kindness had changed the course of her life in mere moments. She hadn't just sold a watch, she had embraced an opportunity, one that wouldn't have happened without Alex. The journey continued, every mile bringing a deeper sense of understanding. Life was unpredictable, full of setbacks and struggles, but it also offered joy, laughter, and incredible new beginnings. Later, the bus finally rumbled to a stop at a small terminal, the air buzzing with morning energy. Mia gathered her things, stepping out into a world vibrant with possibilities, vibrant with hopes and dreams waiting to be chased. She exhaled sharply, rooted in the moment. Her watch, her past, had led her here, but it didn't define her future. With determination, she stepped forward into the morning light, leaving behind the remnants of who she used to be. As she walked away, a thought lingered in her mind. Maybe running towards something is far more powerful than running away from something. And no matter the path ahead, she would embrace every moment with hope. In that bright new town, Mia felt lighter and braver than ever before, and it was only the beginning. Mia stood at the edge of the street, adrenaline coursing through her veins as she stared at the worn sidewalk ahead. It was a bustling day in the city, but to her, it felt like time had slowed down. In her pocket, she clutched her grandmother's watch, its metal cool against her skin. This watch was more than just an accessory. It was a connection to a past that was slipping away, a reminder of the warmth and safety that had once enveloped her life. Today was her breaking point. The weight of unpaid bills and crushing disappointment had become too much to bear. She had spent countless nights awake, wondering how she would escape this bleak cycle. As she turned her gaze to the pawn shop down the street, a flicker of determination ignited inside her. Today, she would take a leap. The bell above the door jingled as she stepped inside Charlie's pawn shop, a chaotic maze filled with forgotten treasures and broken dreams. Old guitars hung on the walls, dusty furniture lined the corners, and strange artifacts lay scattered across the counter. Charlie, the grizzled owner, glanced up, his brow furrowing at the sight of her pale face. "Mia," he grunted, recognizing her. "I need to sell my watch," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. She wiped her clammy hands on her jeans as she laid the delicate timepiece on the counter. Charlie picked it up, his eyes narrowing as he inspected it. "This is a nice piece, but it's not exactly in demand right now. $75. The number hit her like a punch in the gut. She had imagined it being worth so much more, yet here she was, desperate and ready to part with the one thing that connected her to love and history. But she was also ready to leave this town, this cage of her past. She asked, fighting back tears. He sighed, his gaze softening. "I understand, but I'm not running a charity." As the words echoed in her mind, her resolve wavered. She felt small, lost in a world that now seemed so unkind. But then she remembered her dreams, how she wanted to escape, to start fresh somewhere far from the shadows of her past. "I'll take it," she muttered, feeling like a part of her soul was being traded away. Charlie handed her the cash $75 in crumpled bills. It felt like betrayal and salvation all at once. Stepping outside, Mia was met with a brisk breeze. The city around her felt stark, vibrant, but still suffocating. Her heart raced as she made her way to the bus station, that ticking clock in her pocket turning into an anchor instead of the timepiece it was meant to be. The bus station loomed ahead, a small, weathered building filled with the chatter of travelers, a tapestry of stories and lost opportunities. With shaky legs, she approached the counter. The ticket agent asked, glancing up. "Anywhere," she responded, the urgency in her voice breaking through. "Just." The agent raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "Trust me," Mia replied, her heart pounding as she fished for her money. When the agent quoted the price, Mia felt a chilly wave wash over her. $125, her heart sank. She had just given away the watch and now this. I don't have that," she stammered. Frustration swept over her. What was she supposed to do now? Just stand there, a creature of misfortune? She bit her lip and looked down, the weight of the world settling back onto her shoulders. But just then, she heard a familiar voice. Whipping around, she saw Alex, a guy from the cafe where she worked. He always brightened her day with laughter, but today his expression was one of concern. He asked, stepping closer, "I'm trying to leave." "But I can't afford the ticket," she admitted, the openness of her heart frightening her. Alex's eyes softened as he pieced together her circumstances. Without hesitation, he reached for his wallet, pulling out the cash as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Alex, no, you don't have to do this. It's too much," she protested, a mix of gratitude and fear flooding her. But he interrupted her. "Take it, just get on that bus." His voice was firm, leaving no room for argument. Before she could think it over, he handed the agent the money, turning back to Mia with a smile that felt like a lifeline. "You're all set," the agent said, looking at Mia with a blend of surprise and delight. She blinked, stunned, as she accepted the ticket. Don't worry about that," he said, waving his hands dismissively. Mia stepped outside, Alex by her side. The sky was tinged with the colors of sunset, warm hues that felt like promise. They walked together towards the bus, her heart racing with a blend of excitement and fear. He asked, trying to keep the conversation light. "I don't know," she admitted honestly. "Maybe the coast." A grin split Alex's face. "You've got great taste. The coast can bring a new perspective." His words struck a chord deep within. They were just light banter, but something in them stirred a longing for hope that she thought had been extinguished. They arrived at the bus, and before stepping aboard, Alex turned to her with sincerity in his eyes. "Just remember, Mia, it's okay to lean on people." Taking a deep breath, she nodded, feeling lighter as if a weight she hadn't even realized she was carrying had begun to lift. "Thank you, Alex," she whispered, gratitude swelling in her chest. As she boarded the bus, she took one last look at him, his presence standing steady against the backdrop of her ever-changing world. With a final wave, she stepped up, the door closing behind her and sealing her fate for the journey ahead. The engine roared to life, and soon they were rolling down the road, the city lights fading behind her. Each mile taken felt like slicing through the fog that had clouded her mind for far too long. Mia settled into her seat, glancing at the ticket, her ticket to freedom. She closed her eyes, inhaling deeply. The bus was filled with strangers, yet there was a strangely comforting energy in the air. All of them were headed somewhere, into their own unknowns, each one bearing stories untold. Hours rolled by like the landscape outside, where shots of sunlight danced over hills and valleys. Each passing town felt like a moment suspended in time, a gasp of air before another leap into the unknown. As the bus made a brief stop, she stepped outside to stretch. The fresh air invigorated her, a clarion call to embrace her new beginning. She marveled at how simply taking a step could lead to a change so profound. When she returned to her seat, she glanced at the strangers around her. It struck her then they were all travelers, some running from something, others chasing dreams. She realized she wasn't just one of them. She was ready to grab hold of life again. Mia could hardly believe she was actually doing it, leaving it all behind. With every passing mile, the memories of her past city seemed to shrink, while hints of excitement bubbled at the edges of her heart. The thought of the ocean filled her mind. Its vastness promised endless possibilities. It would be a fresh start, canvas to paint her new life. She'd learn to surf, feel the salt water in her hair, and explore a world where the sun kissed the horizon every evening. When the bus finally pulled up to a quaint coastal town, Mia stepped off with a sense of awe. The air was different here, tinged with salt and flowers. As she looked around, she felt a surge of hope. She wasn't just escaping, she was stepping into a world where she could redefine herself. Already she felt the layer of her old life peel away, making room for new experiences and adventures. The path ahead rippled with uncertainty, but Mia was ready. From the small cafe that beckoned to the beach that sparkled in the distance, she could sense that life would unfold in ways she could never imagine. As she wandered through the winding streets, the laughter of children and chatter of locals filled the air. Mia remembered Alex's kind smile and felt gratitude wash over her once again. Maybe this leap wasn't just about finding a new place. Maybe it was about discovering herself again. With every step, she began to embrace who she was, the girl who had the courage to leave a part of her behind and create something entirely new. And as the sun dipped low, painting the sky with brilliant colors, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She would face challenges, yes, but she would no longer face them alone. With the support she had found, Mia felt like she could conquer anything. The journey that had begun with a broken heart and a watch had blossomed into something beautiful. In this new town, she would learn, grow, and discover the life she always longed for. Because sometimes, to find yourself, you have to be willing to leave everything familiar behind. And for the first time in a long time, Mia felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. Mia stood on the edge of town with the sound of her heart pounding in her ears. It was a crisp autumn day, and the leaves crunched under her feet as she walked toward the pawn shop. Clutching her grandmother's watch, she felt the familiar weight of it on her wrist, a burden and a blessing all at once. The watch had always been a symbol of her past, a tangible connection to memories she couldn't shake off. But today, she knew what she had to do. Inside the pawn shop, the air was thick with dust and dashed hopes. Various items cluttered the shelves, each one telling its own story of someone who once cherished it. As she approached the counter, her hands trembled. Charlie, the shop owner, looked up from an old newspaper, his expression unreadable. "Mia," he said, recognizing her immediately. "I want to sell my watch," she replied, forcing the words out. Charlie's brow knitted in curiosity as he leaned in to examine the timepiece glinting in the faded light. A family heirloom, nice watch, $75. The number hit her like a slap in the face. All those beautiful memories of her grandmother flooded her mind, the laughter, the stories, the warmth of those afternoons spent together. This watch wasn't just a piece of jewelry, it was the last connection she had to the happiest moments of her life. But with bills piling up and hope fading, she didn't feel she had a choice. She begged, desperation creeping into her voice. He regarded her, searching her face, but his expression didn't change. "Look, Mia, I wish I could, but I'm not a charity." Mia took a deep breath, feeling the lump in her throat grow. It was time to let go. "Okay, I'll take it," she said, each word tasting bittersweet. Charlie counted the money, sliding it toward her. She took it gingerly, feeling something in her heart break with every inch the watch moved away from her. Stepping outside, the brisk air braced her a temporary distraction from the swirling emotions inside. The town around her felt like a prison. She had wanted to leave for so long, but like the watch, her dreams seemed trapped in the past. Determined, she walked toward the bus station, each step firm yet heavy. The small building came into view, solid against the backdrop of a gray sky that threatened rain. Inside, people bustled about, unaware of the storm brewing in her heart. The ticket agent snapped, eyes glued to the screen. Mia approached, her heart racing. "I need a ticket to anywhere," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The agent raised an eyebrow, doubt flickering in her gaze. "That's a big request." "Anywhere but here," Mia replied, desperation pushing her words out faster. The agent started typing, her face lit by the glow of the screen. Mia felt the ground slip out from under her. She fumbled for the cash in her pocket, only to come up short. The watch had provided a bridge to her escape, but the cost of departure was still too high. Panic surged through her. I don't have that much, she stuttered, the reality settling in heavy like a storm cloud. Then it looks like you're not going anywhere, the agent said, turning back to her screen as if their conversation was already over. Mia's heart thudded in her chest, threatening to crack open. She stepped back, feeling the fear and despair wash over her. What was she supposed to do now? Just stand there, a ghost of a person who had dreamed of freedom? A voice broke through her thoughts. Whipping around, she recognized Alex, a guy from the local coffee shop. He had bright eyes and an infectious laugh, always teasing her about her coffee choices. But today his expression was serious and concern filled his gaze. He asked, stepping closer. I'm trying to leave, she admitted, her voice trembling. Alex's face shifted from concern to determination. $125, she replied, her heart breaking a little more as the truth poured out. Without missing a beat, Alex pulled out his wallet. Let's make it happen, he said, his expression unwavering. No, Alex, you don't have to do that, she protested. The urge to refuse was strong, but the desperation was stronger. Stop, just take it, he insisted, ignoring her protest. You deserve this chance. In a moment that felt surreal, he handed the agent enough cash to cover the fare. This is for her, he said, his voice firm but kind. Mia stared at him, disbelief swirling in her stomach. He nodded, a smile surfacing. Go on, with shaking hands, she accepted the ticket, her heart racing with gratitude and dread. Thank you, Alex, she whispered, feeling a warmth bloom in her chest. Just remember you're not alone, he said, a sincerity in his eyes that struck her deeply. The bus arrived, its engine rumbling as Mia stepped on board, clutching the ticket and Alex's words tight. The door closed behind her, sealing her fate. The bus rattled down the road, each mile taking her further away from her past. Mia looked out the window, watching the town she wanted to escape fade into the horizon. The weight of pain and sorrow began to lift as possibilities stretched out ahead of her like an endless road. Hours passed in a blur of stops and starts. Mia settled into her seat, taking a deep breath, letting the rhythm of the bus soothe her racing mind. With every passing mile, she felt lighter, her dreams of freedom beginning to take root. As the bus pulled into a rest area, Mia stepped off for a breath of fresh air. The clean scent of pine wrapped around her, pushing away the darkness that had haunted her for what felt like an eternity. She could feel the sun warm her skin. In that moment, she realized she was free, not just from the town, but to explore who she could become. Her heart swelled with the promise of new beginnings. The ocean was calling, and she could almost hear the waves crashing against the shore. Back on the bus, a swell of excitement crashed over her. She was leaving behind the weight of expectation, of unfulfilled dreams. This was the beginning, and it felt exhilarating. As the bus rolled into the coastal town, Mia could hardly contain herself. The vibrant colors of the sunset painted everything in shades of orange and pink, like a storybook unfolding just for her. She stepped off, and the salty air wrapped around her, a greeting from the universe. Everywhere she looked, people were laughing and living, and she realized she had stepped into a world filled with possibilities. The surf roared in the distance, a promise of adventure awaiting her just beyond the shore. Mia took a deep breath, feeling more alive than she had in years. She wandered through the streets, soaking in the sights and sounds. This place felt vibrant, different from the grayness she had left behind. Here she could be anyone or anything. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Mia found a small cafe beside the beach. The laughter and chatter inside felt welcoming, as if inviting her to join a new story. She stepped in, her heart dancing for the first time in what felt like forever. The barista asked, glancing up from behind the counter. Mia replied, her voice bubbling with new energy. The barista smiled, sensing her excitement. Try our special, a coconut mocha. I'll take 2, she said, her spirit lifted as she thought of sharing them with Alex. After ordering, she settled by the window, watching the waves crash against the rocks outside. The warmth inside contrasted beautifully with the cool evening breeze, creating the perfect cocoon of comfort. She sipped her drink, the flavors exploding on her tongue, and realized this wasn't just a getaway. This was the beginning of a new life. That day she had sold her past, but now she was starting to build a future. As she looked out at the shimmering water, she could almost hear the call of the ocean, whispering promises of adventure and hope. She felt gratitude for Alex, for believing in her when she couldn't find the strength to believe in herself. Later that evening, she pulled out her phone, a smile breaking across her face as she typed a message to him. Thank you for everything. I made it to the coast. It's beautiful here. The reply chimed back almost instantly. I'm so proud of you. A warmth flooded Mia's heart. In just a few hours, she had transformed from a girl drowning in fear to a young woman standing at the edge of her future, filled with hope and possibility. She spent the next few days exploring the coast, meeting new people, and immersing herself in the community. It wasn't always easy. Uncertainties crept in, and she faced moments of doubt. But every time she felt herself slipping, she found comfort in the ocean's rhythm, a reminder that life ebbs and flows. One warm afternoon, she found herself on the beach, eyes closed as the sun kissed her skin. She felt endless gratitude for the small moments, the laughter of nearby children, the call of seagulls soaring overhead, the warm sand between her toes. For the first time in a long time, she felt at peace. That evening she waved from the shore as the sun melted into the horizon, a golden ball of light sinking into the deep blue water. Mia closed her eyes, allowing the gentle breeze to carry away her worries, her fears. Tomorrow is a new day, she whispered to herself, envisioning whatever adventure awaited her. Days turned into weeks, and the more she embraced her new life, the more her hope began to flourish. She found a job at a beachside cafe, a place vibrant with laughter and stories. The warmth of her coworkers and the close-knit community wrapped around her like a blanket, comforting and inspiring. But it was also in little ways that Mia healed. She took long walks by the surf, where the waves invited her to reflect on her journey. Each crash against the shore felt like a release, washing away the remnants of what no longer served her. She began to explore new hobbies she never had time for before. Painting and photography became her outlets, tools she used to express the emotions she had tucked away for so long. She filled her small apartment with canvases that captured the essence of the ocean, vibrant swirls of color that mirrored her newfound freedom. Mia never forgot where she had come from, nor the sacrifices that had led her here. But she learned that sometimes letting go was essential for growth. As she painted, she felt pieces of herself emerge that she had long buried under layers of fear. One sunny afternoon, while taking a break from work, she went for a stroll along the shoreline. The laughter of children filled the air, and she smiled, a sense of contentment washing over her. As she stood there, the ocean breeze tousling her hair, she caught sight of a familiar figure walking toward her. Her heart skipped a beat as Alex approached, his smile bright and warm. "Mia," he called out, arms outstretched as if to pull her into a hug. "Alex," she exclaimed, her heart swelling. They embraced, and it felt like a reunion filled with promise and unspoken stories. "I had to see you in your new element," he said, stepping back to look at her. "I can't thank you enough for believing in me that day. I wouldn't be here without you," she replied, feeling a rush of gratitude. "Just doing my part," he shrugged, but his eyes sparkled with joy. Mia grinned, filled with excitement. "I want to explore more, maybe even take a trip up the coast." "That sounds incredible. I'd love to join you on an adventure," he replied, his eyes lighting up. As they walked along the shoreline, laughter echoed between them, a reminder that connection is one of life's greatest treasures. Sharing stories of their experiences since that pivotal moment made the sun feel even warmer, as if the universe were celebrating their friendship. When the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of pink and orange, Mia felt a deep sense of belonging. Here on this beach, she had transformed from a girl holding onto a past to a woman ready to embrace her future. As they stood together, watching the sun dip below the horizon, she realized that sometimes the hardest choices lead to the sweetest rewards. She had sold her watch, but in doing so, she had unlocked a world of opportunities. Mia turned to Alex, her voice steady. "Thank you for being there when I needed it most." He smiled, a warm, genuine smile that reached his eyes. "And thank you for showing me what true bravery looks like." They watched as the last rays of sun disappeared, the ocean waves crashing rhythmically against the shore, symbolic of renewal and hope. And in that moment, standing side by side, Mia knew her journey was just beginning. She was ready to embrace whatever came next, armed with courage, gratitude, and the knowledge that sometimes the path forward requires leaving the past behind. Life had a way of unfolding beautifully, especially when you're brave enough to let go and dive into the unknown. With her heart full, she stepped forward into her next chapter, ready for all the adventures that awaited her. Mia stood at the corner of the street, her heart pounding. In her hand, she clutched her grandmother's watch, its smooth metal cool against her palm. Today was not just any day, it was a day of decisions. She had reached the end of her rope and was ready to break free from the town that felt more like a prison than a home. As she walked toward Charlie's pawn shop, the world around her faded into a blur. Cars honked, people rushed by, and the smell of roasted coffee from a nearby cafe filled the air. But Mia felt detached, as if she were in a movie and everything was happening in slow motion. Inside the pawn shop, the air was heavy with the scent of dust and forgotten memories. Shelves were filled with trinkets, old toys, and items that had lost their value. Charlie, the shop owner, looked up from behind the counter, his brows furrowing as he recognized her. "Mia," he said, his voice gravelly. "I need to sell my watch," she said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. She placed her grandmother's watch on the counter, its silver face gleaming under the dim lights. Charlie picked it up, scrutinizing it with an expert eye. "This is nice, but it's not exactly in demand." $75, the words felt like a gut punch. This watch was not just a piece of jewelry. It held nostalgia, love, and warmth, the memories of Sunday afternoons spent with her grandmother, the stories she had told, the laughter they had shared. But Mia needed more than memories, she needed to leave. She pleaded, feeling her resolve wavering. Charlie sighed, leaning back in his chair. "Kid, I wish I could, but I have bills to pay too." Mia swallowed hard, anger and desperation swirling in her chest. She weighed her options, her dreams of freedom clashing with the pain of parting. "Fine, I'll take it," she said, forcing the words through clenched teeth. After he handed her the cash, she stepped back outside. The fresh air hit her face, but it wasn't enough to wash away the heaviness inside her. With a determined stride, she headed toward the bus station, where she hoped to leave this town behind for good. The bus station loomed ahead, a small, gray building filled with the sounds of chatter and the scent of stale coffee. It felt like a gateway to new beginnings, and yet her heart raced with fear as she stepped inside. This was it, time to break free. The ticket agent called, staring at her through half-moon glasses. "I need a ticket to anywhere," Mia said, her voice shaky yet resolute. The agent replied, raising an eyebrow. "That's a broad request. Anywhere but here," Mia insisted, her chest tightening with urgency. The agent nodded, the sound of her fingers clicking against the keyboard echoing in the quiet space. Panic washed over Mia. She fumbled in her pocket, feeling the crumpled bills she had just received, $75, glaring up at her like a cruel joke. "I don't have enough," she admitted, feeling the walls of despair closing in. "Then it looks like you're not going anywhere," the agent said matter-of-factly, turning back to her screen. Mia stepped back, her mind racing. What was she supposed to do now? Just stand there, trapped in a life that felt increasingly suffocating. "Hey, Mia," the voice cut through her thoughts. She turned to see Alex, a friendly face from the cafe where she worked part-time. He had an easy smile and a playful spirit that always lightened her day. But today, as he stepped closer, his expression was filled with concern. He asked, "I'm trying to leave," she said, her voice cracking. Alex studied her, empathy spilling from his eyes. $125, she replied, feeling her heart sink further. "Wait here," he said, and before she could protest, he rushed to the ATM nearby. A moment later, he returned, cash in hand. "Here," her mind raced. "Alex, I can't accept this. Just take it," he insisted, his tone firm but kind. "You need this chance." Mia's chest tightened as she felt tears welling up. In that moment, she knew that he believed in her even when she struggled to believe in herself. She asked quietly. "Absolutely," he said, handing the cash to the ticket agent. Mia watched as the agent printed the ticket, her heart swelling with gratitude as she accepted it. "Thank you," she whispered, overwhelmed. "Just remember, you're not alone," Alex said, a sincere smile lighting up his face. With the ticket clutched in her hand, Mia felt a surge of warmth. Perhaps hope wasn't so distant after all. They stepped outside together, the late afternoon sun casting golden rays down on them. He asked, curiosity etched in his features. "Anywhere I can start over," she said. "Maybe the coast, that sounds amazing," he replied. "The ocean has a way of healing." As they chatted, Mia felt lighter, almost giddy at the thought of leaving. This was a new beginning, not just for her escape, but for rediscovering herself. She could almost envision the vast ocean ahead, stretching out like endless possibilities. When the bus arrived, Mia turned to Alex, gratitude pouring out of her. He said, nudging her playfully. With a deep breath and a grateful heart, Mia boarded the bus. As the engine roared to life and they pulled away, she watched the town fade into the distance, each mile feeling like a weight being lifted from her shoulders. With every turn of the wheels, the anxiety that had gripped her started to dissolve. The landscape shifted outside the window, from gray buildings to rolling hills, until finally the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in vibrant shades of orange and purple. For the first time, Mia felt the thrill of uncharted territory. She knew the road ahead wouldn't always be smooth, but at least it was hers to travel. Hours passed. The bus rattled and shook, the rhythmic motion lulling her into reflection. Mia gazed out at the passing scenery, thoughts tumbling over one another like the hills outside. She remembered the pain of her past the bills, the heartache, the feeling of being trapped. But as the miles stretched on, she caught glimpses of hope and new horizons. The bus made a rest stop in a small town. Stepping outside, she inhaled deeply, filling her lungs with fresh air. The scent of pine and earth exhilarated her. She took a moment to soak it all in, the freedom, the possibilities, all laid out in front of her. Back on the bus, she settled into her seat, excitement bubbling inside her like a pot getting ready to boil over. With every passing town, her excitement grew. Soon she would reach the coast. The thought of waves crashing against the shore filled her with joy. Suddenly, the bus swerved, coming to an abrupt stop. Shouts echoed as everyone braced against their seats. Mia's heart raced. Was this the end of her dream? The bus driver stood up, heart racing. "We have a flat tire." Mia's heart sank. Would she ever get there? But as people began to grumble, she took a deep breath and remembered Alex's words. She wasn't alone. Sitting quietly, she connected with fellow passengers, sharing stories of where they were headed, aspiring artists, travelers, families seeking new lives. Each story resonated with her, weaving a tapestry of connection that filled the air with hope. When help finally arrived, the atmosphere leaned toward excitement. They resumed their journey, and with newfound energy flowing through her, Mia stared out at the horizon, watching as the colors of the sky blended together in a watercolor painting. As they approached the coast, Mia's breath quickened with anticipation. The sound of the waves began spilling into the air, rhythmic and inviting. Finally, as the bus rolled into a small coastal town, she felt as if she were awakening from a long dream. Stepping off the bus, Mia was enveloped by the crisp, salty air. She looked around, taking in the sight the colorful buildings with flower boxes, the vibrant market stalls, and most importantly, the vast blue ocean sparkling in the sunlight. Her heart raced. This was her moment. She could finally start anew. She wandered through the town, feeling the cobblestones under her feet, marveling at the shops and cafes brimming with life. Laughter and music floated through the air, something that felt foreign yet welcoming. In the distance, she spotted a beach. As she approached, the waves lapped at the shore, beckoning her closer. When she felt the warm sand between her toes, a wave of euphoria washed over her. She wasn't just standing on a beach, she was finally free. Mia stood at the water's edge, watching the waves crash against the shore. The ocean stretched endlessly ahead, and in that moment she felt small yet powerful. The worries that had once consumed her began to evaporate, taken away by the tide. Just as she was lost in her thoughts, her phone dinged with a message. It was Alex. His text read. A smile crept across her face as she replied, "I'm here." Moments later, her phone rang. It was Alex. "I wanted to hear your voice. It feels surreal, like a weight has lifted. I can't believe I'm really here," she said, her voice brimming with excitement. "I'm so proud of you, Mia. You had the courage to take that leap," he said, and she could hear the sincerity in his tone. "Thanks for believing in me. Let me know how your first day goes." After ending the call, Mia gazed back at the ocean, feeling the warmth of the sun and the cool breeze on her face. Her journey had begun, and she was ready for each moment. Over the next few weeks, she threw herself into her new life. She found a job at a beach cafe, surrounded by friendly faces who welcomed her with open arms. The air was filled with laughter and the clinking of glasses, and she realized she had found a community she could be part of. Mia also explored the coastline, standing on cliffs overlooking the ocean, its beauty intoxicating. Each day she grew stronger and her fears faded like the tides. She began painting, the colors and emotions pouring out onto the canvas. She captured sunsets, waves crashing against rocks, and the essence of the life she was nurturing. One day, as she watched the sunset turn the sky into a riot of colors, a familiar voice broke through her thoughts. It was Alex, standing a few feet away, his face lit by the orange glow of the horizon. She exclaimed, her heart leaping. "Of course, I had to see this beautiful place for myself," he replied, grinning. As they stood side by side, watching the colors meld together, Mia felt a sense of companionship that had been missing in her life. "Thank you for believing in me, Alex," she said sincerely. "You've done this all on your own," he responded. The two shared stories that evening, laughter mixing with the sound of waves. Time seemed to stand still, and in that moment everything felt magically right. As the stars appeared one by one, Mia realized she was living the life she had longed for. The journey hadn't just been about leaving her old life behind. It had been about discovering her strength, resilience, and the people who had supported her along the way. The ocean breeze felt like a promise, a reminder that each wave that crashes against the shore carries away what doesn't serve you, leaving room for what does. And for Mia, today was the beginning of a beautiful adventure, one she would navigate with courage, hope, and love. With a heart full of gratitude, she turned to Alex, who smiled at her in a way that made her pulse quicken. It wasn't just friendship that lingered between them, it was something deeper waiting to unfold. And as they stood together beneath a sky blooming with stars, Mia knew this was where she belonged, caught in the embrace of new beginnings, the journey of her life stretching ahead, boundless and beautiful. The sun was setting, painting the sky in layers of orange and purple, when Mia stood in front of the pawn shop, her heart racing. In her palm rested her grandmother's watch, its cool metal contrasting sharply with the heat rising in her chest. It had been the only thing left from a once loving home, a reminder of laughter and warmth. Yet today, it felt like a heavy stone one she needed to toss into the sea to finally feel free. This was it. After weeks of sleepless nights that blurred into endless days, she had decided to escape this town that gripped her like a vice. The weight of overdue bills, a job that felt like a trap, and heartbreak crushed her spirit. The watch was supposed to be the key to break free, and selling it was the first step towards a new life, one where she could reclaim herself. As she pushed open the door to Charlie's pawn shop, a soft bell jingled, sounding like a timid warning. The dimly lit room was filled with forgotten treasures, old instruments, dusty furniture, and trinkets that had lost their spark. Behind the counter sat Charlie, an imposing figure with a scruffy beard and piercing eyes that seemed to look straight through her. "Mia," he said, recognizing her. "I want to sell my watch," she said, her voice steady despite the storm brewing within her. She set the watch down on the counter, its shine dulled under the harsh fluorescent lights. Charlie picked it up, examining it thoughtfully. "This is a nice piece." "Yes," she replied, her chest tightening. He nodded, but Mia could see the pity in his eyes. "I can offer you $75. $75. It felt like her insides were being twisted. This watch held her grandmother's stories, the warmth of a loving home, but desperation pushed her forward. She needed to leave this town, this suffocating life. She gulped. "Okay," she said, forcing down the rising wave of emotions. As Charlie handed her the cash, Mia felt as if she was relinquishing part of herself. She took the crumpled bills and turned to leave, the door jingling behind her, marking the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. With the sun beginning to sink lower in the sky, Mia walked toward the bus station. Each step felt heavy, like she was dragging the weight of her past with her. Fragments of memories swirled around her grandmother's laughter, the stories shared over steaming cups of tea, the warmth of her hugs. But she couldn't dwell on that now. She had to focus on the road ahead. Soon she would be on her way to somewhere new, somewhere filled with possibilities. The bus station loomed ahead, a boxy building that seemed worn down by years of travelers. Inside, the air buzzed with the low chatter of people, the smell of cheap coffee and stale pastries lingering in her nose. The ticket counter looked busy, filled with travelers, but she pushed through, urgency guiding her. The ticket agent called without looking up. "I need a ticket to anywhere," Mia said, her voice shaking slightly. The agent raised an eyebrow, glancing up as if weighing her honesty. "That's a bold request." "Anywhere but here," Mia replied, desperation edging her voice as she clutched her cash tightly. "All right, that'll be $125, the agent said, her demeanor shifting slightly, sensing the tension. Mia's stomach dropped. I don't have that much," she stammered, panic bubbling to the surface. Her heart raced, and for a moment she felt the world darken around her. The agent sighed and shrugged. She turned back to her computer, dismissing Mia with indifference. Mia stepped back, feeling like all the air had been sucked from the room. She glanced around, searching for a way out, a glimmer of hope. She was trapped, and the thought sent her spiraling back into the depths of despair. What was she supposed to do now? Suddenly, a voice pierced through her anxious thoughts. "Mia," she turned to see Alex striding toward her. His messy hair and easy smile instantly lightened her mood, but his brow furrowed as he approached. "I'm trying to leave," she admitted, her voice cracking as the fear bubbled over. Concern washed over Alex's face. $125, she replied, feeling a lump form in her throat. It felt hopeless. "I'll lend it to you," he said without skipping a beat, reaching into his pocket. "No, you can't," she protested, her heart racing. The kindness felt overwhelming, pushing her walls down. "Seriously, Mia, just take it. You deserve this chance," he insisted, his eyes earnest. Her mind spun. Could she take this leap? Could she accept help when everything in her screamed that she had to do it alone? But as Alex's gaze remained steady, she felt a flicker of warmth ignite within her. She finally asked, her voice softer. He took the cash from his wallet and smiled. "It's just money." With shaky hands, she accepted the cash as the agent printed her ticket. "Thank you," she whispered, overwhelmed with gratitude. "Just remember, you're not alone," Alex said, a confident grin breaking across his face. Mia stepped outside, feeling the weight of the world lifting ever so slightly. The sun began to dip below the horizon, casting a warm glow over everything. For the first time in weeks, hope flickered inside her. Alex asked as they walked toward the bus. "Maybe the coast," she replied, excitement bubbling up alongside her nerves. "That's perfect," Alex said, a spark of enthusiasm in his voice. "The ocean has a magic about it." They reached the bus, and as Mia prepared to board, a swell of emotions washed over her. This was her moment. She was finally making a choice, one to leave behind the shadows that had haunted her for too long. "Thank you, Alex," she said, sincerity lacing her words. He waved her off. "Just go, Mia." As the bus began to pull away, she caught one last glimpse of Alex, his figure growing smaller against the backdrop of the town she was leaving behind. With every mile the bus traveled, Mia felt anxiety and fear melting away, replaced by a sense of exhilaration. The changing landscape zipped by flashes of fields and forests, of mountains and rivers, until finally, the glow of the setting sun danced across the horizon. It was a vibrant reminder that the world was much larger than her small worries. Hours passed as her heart pounded with anticipation. At last, the bus rolled to a stop at a rest area. The driver announced a brief break, and Mia stepped outside to stretch her legs. The fresh air enveloped her like a warm hug, fragrant with the scents of blooming flowers and the faint aroma of the nearby coffee stand. She took a deep breath, inhaling possibilities. When she returned to her seat, she felt different, lighter somehow, as if she was shedding the layers of her past with every mile they traveled. With the sun approaching the horizon, the sky filled with hues of pink and orange. Mia couldn't help but smile, the beauty stealing her breath. It was as if the universe was celebrating her journey alongside her. But then a sudden jolt shook her from her reverie. The bus came to an abrupt stop, slamming her against the seat. Gasps filled the air. Mia's heart raced. Did something go wrong? Before panic could set in, the driver rose to announce, "We've got a flat tire." Frustration rippled through the bus, voices rising. But Mia took a deep breath and remembered Alex's words. She wasn't alone. She looked around at the faces surrounding her, some frustrated, some anxious, and some apathetic, and felt a strange sense of camaraderie. People were sharing stories, laughter cutting through the tension. It reminded her that journeys were rarely smooth. They were filled with bumps and unexpected detours, just like life. Eventually, help arrived and they were back on the road. Mia couldn't shake the feeling of excitement bubbling inside her. Each bump she experienced only solidified her determination to reach the coast. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the bus grumbled into the coastal town, and Mia's heart soared as she took in the golden sands glistening in the afternoon light. The air was infused with fresh ocean breezes, mingled with laughter and the distant sound of waves crashing against the shore. Stepping off the bus, she felt like she was embracing a new world. There was an undeniable sense of freedom and possibility surrounding her, as if the ocean had come to greet her like an old friend. "Welcome to the coast," she whispered to herself, a smile stretching across her face. As she wandered through the town, she marveled at the vibrant colors of the buildings, the cries of seagulls above, and the laughter drifting from nearby cafes. Her spirit felt lighter, and for the first time in a long time, she felt alive. Mia found a small beach cafe with a welcoming ambience, the aroma of fresh pastries wafting through the air. She stepped inside and ordered a coffee, feeling the buzz of life around her. When her drink arrived, she settled at a table by the window, gazing out at the ocean. The waves rolled in rhythm, reminding her that life, like the tide, had its ebbs and flows. She thought about the strength it had taken to get here, about Alex's unwavering belief in her. Moments turned into hours, and she started sketching. With each stroke of her pencil, she poured out her emotions onto the paper, capturing the essence of the place she now found herself in. It was liberating. As evening approached, the town transformed under the glow of soft lights. Mia wandered toward the beach, where children played in the sand and families gathered to watch the sunset. The sky burned bright, a masterpiece of colors mirroring the joy blooming inside her. Suddenly, she heard a familiar voice call her name. Turning around, she saw Alex's silhouette approaching, his smile lighting up his face. "I couldn't stay away." Mia's heart fluttered, a mixture of surprise and happiness flooding through her. They hugged, warmth wrapping around them like a blanket. As they walked along the shoreline, the waves lapping at their feet, Mia felt a connection that had deepened in the time apart. "Thank you for believing in me," she said sincerely, feeling the weight of gratitude fill her heart. "You did this on your own, Mia," he said, his voice earnest. They stopped to watch the sun dip below the horizon, the world turning shades of deep blue and purple. In that moment, everything felt perfect, like a reset button had been pressed. Together, they shared stories, laughter intermingling with the sound of the waves. As the stars began to twinkle in the evening sky, Mia felt grateful for the journey that brought her here, for the new friendships that blossomed, and for the power she found within herself. Alex asked, nudging her playfully. Mia turned to him, her heart racing with possibility. The ocean shimmered beside her, reflecting the excitement of the journey ahead. And for the first time in her life, Mia felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be, on the brink of a new story, with the world open wide in front of her. With courage in her heart and hope lighting her path, she was ready to embrace every twist and turn life had to offer. The watch she had sold had set her free, but it was the friendships and bravery that would guide her forward into a future filled with endless possibilities. Mia stood on the sidewalk, heart racing as she stared at the small pawn shop that had become a focal point of her desperation. In her hand rested her grandmother's watch, its weight both comforting and suffocating. It was more than just a watch. It was a memory, a connection to a past filled with love and laughter. But today it felt like a stone weighing her down, a reminder of everything she wanted to escape. This town had become a cage, and each day felt longer than the last. She couldn't keep living like this, drowning in debt, surrounded by memories that haunted her. Today was the day she'd take the leap. Today she would sell the watch and finally leave. As she pushed open the door to the pawn shop, a little bell jingled, try as it might to sound cheerful in the thick, musty air. The shop was cluttered with items that told stories of lives once lived. Old guitars, dusty furniture with faded upholstery, and strange trinkets that seemed to hold their owners' secrets. At the counter stood Charlie, the shop owner, a grizzled man with deep lines etched into his weathered face. His gaze shifted to her, and he raised an eyebrow, curiosity mingling with suspicion. "Mia," he greeted, his voice a gruff rumble. "I need to sell my watch," she said, laying it on the counter, its polished surface reflecting Charlie's skeptical expression. He picked it up, examining it closely. "This is a nice piece, real vintage." The figure struck her like a blow. $75 for something that held the memories of her grandmother's laughter, her warm hugs, and countless afternoons spent together. It felt like a cruel joke. Every moment spent with that watch bubbled to the surface. Sunday afternoons filled with stories over cups of tea, the reassuring presence of family. She pleaded, desperation creeping into her voice. Hope flickered like a candle in the wind. Charlie shook his head slowly, his expression sympathetic. "Look, I get it, but I'm running a business here." Tears pricked at her eyes, but she fought them back. She couldn't let herself be held back any longer. "Okay," she said, voice trembling slightly. Charlie counted out the cash and slid it toward her. Mia took it, feeling as if a part of her was being ripped away. With a heavy heart, she stepped outside, the bell jingling behind her like a farewell. The sun beat down and she felt exposed, stripped of her past. With newfound resolve, Mia headed toward the bus station just a few blocks away. She walked faster, each step echoing the urgency in her heart. She could still feel her grandmother's warmth, however faintly. It pushed her forward, whispering the promise of freedom. The bus station loomed ahead, a small building that seemed perpetually caught in a state of weariness. Inside, the air smelled stale, a mix of burnt coffee and faint body odor. Travelers bustled about, their voices a murmur in the background, but Mia's focus narrowed only on the ticket counter. The agent called out sharply, her eyes not yet focused on Mia. I need a ticket to anywhere, Mia said, her voice steadier than she felt. Anywhere, the agent glanced up. Anywhere but here, Mia replied, urgency crackling in her voice. The agent's fingers danced across her keyboard and the words filled the air with promise. Panic surged through Mia, cutting sharp. She frantically fished through her pockets, her heart sinking as she remembered Charlie's offer, the $75 that had just exchanged hands. I don't have that much, she stammered, doubt and dread building inside her. The agent looked at her as if she were an annoyance. She turned back to her screen. Defeated, Mia stepped back, her mind racing. What now? Did her dreams of escaping mean nothing? She felt the weight of her past crashing down on her, each investment and hope seemingly wasted. Just then a voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. Mia turned abruptly to see Alex, a friendly face from the cafe where she worked, standing a few feet away. His casual smile quickly morphed into a look of concern as he assessed her expression. He asked, moving closer. I'm trying to leave town, she confessed, her voice faltering. His expression shifted instantly from surprise to determination. $125, she whispered, the vulnerability suffocating. Without hesitation, Alex reached into his pocket, his eyes unwavering. I'll lend it to you. No, I can't accept that, she protested, fear and pride battling inside her. Why not? This is about you moving forward. His voice was firm yet kind, challenging her self-imposed limitations. Mia's heart raced. In that moment, she could sense her entire future hinging on this. Would accepting help mean admitting defeat, or could it be a step toward freedom? Meeting his gaze, she took a deep breath. Absolutely, your life is worth more than the money, he replied, placing the cash in her hands, his sincerity washing over her like a wave. In disbelief, she accepted the bills, feeling her resolve found amidst the confusion. Thank you, Alex, she said, her voice breaking. Just go, Mia, he smiled, his confidence contagious. The agent printed the ticket and Mia took it, a mix of relief and anticipation flooding her. This was not just a ticket, it was a lifeline, a chance to escape the shackles that had kept her bound to her past. As they stepped outside together, the evening sun cast a warm glow over them. He asked, curiosity dancing in his eyes. Maybe the coast, she replied, hope bubbling to the surface. Sounds perfect. There's something about the ocean that makes you feel alive, he said. Mia nodded, already picturing herself standing by the waves, freedom crashing all around her. They walked toward the bus, Mia's heart pounding with excitement and fear. This was her moment. She was leaving everything behind, starting anew. Thank you again, Alex, for believing in me, she said, turning to him, her voice earnest. He shrugged, a playful grin on his face. As the bus pulled up, adrenaline surged through Mia's veins. With a grateful glance at Alex, she stepped aboard, the door closing behind her like a curtain falling on her old life. The bus surged forward, and as it rolled away from the station, Mia watched her town shrink in the distance. The weight of her decision settled over her, both thrilling and terrifying. With every mile, she felt lighter, freer. Hours passed as the bus rumbled along, the landscape shifting from urban grit to open fields, then to rolling hills. She looked out the window, absorbing the beauty of an untamed world she had long yearned to explore. Suddenly, the bus jolted, throwing her against the seat. Gasps filled the air and panic rose as the driver wrestled with the steering wheel. Someone shouted from the back. Mia's heart raced. Was this the end of her journey before it even began? The bus skidded, tires screaming against the pavement, and Mia clutched her armrest, fear pulsing wildly through her. Then just as swiftly, the driver regained control, the bus coming to a shuddering stop on the side of the road. Relief flooded the passengers, but nervous energy still crackled in the air. They exchanged worried glances, unsure of what was next. Flat tire, the driver announced, climbing out of his seat. Murmurs of frustration erupted among the passengers, but Mia remained silent, her mind racing. Would this delay derail her chance to leave everything behind? Would she still be anchored to the pain of her past, unable to escape? Minutes turned into an eternity as Mia began to lose hope, her dreams dangling precariously in the balance. But as she looked around, she saw others sharing stories, laughter dissolving the tension. A sense of community emerged among the strangers, and with it came the realization that life's journey is often unpredictable. When help finally arrived, the bus resumed its journey, and Mia felt a renewed sense of excitement. She was still heading toward the coast, the promise of waves and freedom just ahead. Finally, the landscape began to shift. The unmistakable scent of saltwater began to fill the air as they rolled into the coastal town, and Mia's heart soared. She could see the ocean's vibrant blue just beyond the horizon, the shimmering surface captivating her as she stepped off the bus. As she took her first steps on the sandy shore, the sound of waves crashing against the rocks echoed in her ears. Freedom washed over her, mingling with the ocean breeze. She had done it, left her past behind to begin anew. Just then her phone buzzed, pulling her back to reality. It was a text from Alex, and a smile crept across her face as she read, "Did you make it?" Before she could respond, she noticed a familiar figure moving toward her through the crowd. Heart racing, she squinted against the sun, and just as she recognized the smile, she felt a rush of emotions flood her. Alex called out, waving. In that moment, surrounded by the vibrant hustle of life at the beach, a mix of excitement and unease washed over her. She had escaped one world, but what awaited her in this new one? As they embraced, a new chapter unfolded, not just for Mia, but for them both. With time, laughter, and a shared adventure ahead, the horizon teemed with possibilities. But beneath the surface of anticipation, lingering doubts fluttered like waves crashing against the shore. Was running away really the answer, or was this just another beginning? Standing there face to face with Alex, she couldn't shake the feeling that the journey they were both on was only just beginning. The questions loomed larger, and right in that moment, everything felt suspended in time, brimming with thrill and uncertainty. "Let's explore," she said, concealing her fears as they stepped forward hand in hand, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The tide swelled beside them, a powerful reminder that change is as unpredictable as the ocean itself. But just as they began walking toward the water, a sudden crack of thunder echoed in the distance. The sky darkened unnaturally fast, and swirling clouds rolled in, casting a shadow over the beach. A storm was approaching. Mia's heart skipped a beat. Would their escape be washed away in the chaos, or would they find refuge together amidst the tempest? As the first raindrops began to fall, soaking into the sand, they exchanged worried glances. "Maybe we should," Alex began, but before he could finish, the skies opened, unleashing a torrent that transformed the beach into a chaotic scene of rushing waves and panicked faces. Mia felt a surge of adrenaline as the storm raged on, a sudden turning point where all they had dreamed of seemed threatened, but she couldn't turn back now. She had come too far, and with Alex by her side, she was determined to confront whatever challenges lay ahead, storm or not. As the water surged around their feet, they ran toward higher ground, the rain lashing against them, but even in the chaos, Mia felt a sense of power rising inside her. This storm, tangled with uncertainty, was just one more obstacle to face. Together, she shouted over the roar of the wind, locking eyes with Alex. He nodded, his expression a mix of fear and excitement. They would face it all together. And just like that, with the ocean and storm at their backs, they stepped into their new life ready to embrace whatever wave came crashing toward them next.